Hey, today I'm going to show you how I built my own website in an hour on a tiny budget at home. That's right, in 1 hour you can be live with your own website. You don't need much technical experience, you can do this pretty much with just a basic knowledge of computers. So the first thing you're going to need is a domain name. This is basically what people type in to find your website, like facebook.com or google.com or whatever. I recommend keeping it short and simple. All of the big websites you find usually have a short, simple name. First thing we'll do is go to a site called NameSilo. There are lots of other options out there, but this is honestly probably the best one. So here we're going to set up website in 1hour.com and we're going to search for this domain. You can see here that it costs us $17 a year, so let's not go for that. Let's go for the cheap.one domain. Check that out and purchase. So now we're purchasing website in 1hour.one. It's not ideal, but it's only $2, so let's go with that option. Once we have that, we go to our domain manager, and in here we see our domain management and we turn auto renewal on. Alright, now I have my domain name set up. I hope you pick something creative as well. Let's move on to setting up hosting. So this is going to be where our website lives, physically lives, basically the server. You can do this yourself, but I highly recommend we go with a hosting platform. So I went with Hetzner, and the reason I went with them is they're super reliable, super cheap, and it's very simple to get started. Most people probably haven't heard of those. You might hear of Amazon or Microsoft having their own hosting services, but the problem with those is they cost a little bit more, and for me I think this is the most reliable and cheapest option to go for. We will be setting up our own server, and we won't be going for any sort of weird thing like cloud functions or anything like that. We're just going to keep it simple and reliable. So here's Hetzner.com, and we're going to click on the cloud option. Set up your account, and then here create a new project. I'm going to call ours website in 1 hour. Now we click in here and we have our dashboard. All looks nice. And we're going to create a new resource called servers. Now we're going to choose Nuremberg. We're going to choose a Linux Ubuntu image because it's easy to work with. I'll explain that later. We're going to go for a shared CPU, and we're going, there's lots of options here, but what we're going to go for is basically the cheapest option for €4, €3.92. It's a smaller computer, but it should be enough for us. Public IP4, we want that, and we want public IPv6. It costs a couple of cents, but it's fine, it's not too much. SSH key, and we're going to add that, and that's going to let us access our server from our computer through a private protocol, basically. So we generate a key on our Linux, and I will show you how to do this on Windows as well, or if you have any questions, you ask me. So we're going to SSH key gen, and we're going to generate this key, and that's what's going to allow us access to our server. We're going to share our public key, part of our key, to our server. I will leave all the notes to how to do this below, so you can just copy paste all these commands. Then we generate the key, copy paste it in. Now we'll be able to access our server. I'm going to create a volume. A volume is basically just extra space, so why not? It doesn't cost much, 50 cents a month. Again, we're keeping this cheap, but like, I mean, we're talking a couple of cents here. We're not talking even euros or dollars or anything. And now we'll do the firewall later. We'll do backups later. We're going to create a placement group, just to create a default one. Cloud configuration. This is what is basically the setup for our server when it launches. And I've created one here, and you can basically copy paste this. I will share the code for this as well. The only thing that's not entered is the SSH key. So that's your key that lets you access the server, and that needs to be authorized through this cloud configuration. So we're going to copy paste that in, the output that we're given from the command line. The same thing that you gave to the server on Hetzner on the web page. Now we're going to copy paste the whole cloud configuration in here. And there you have it, configuration in here. Your username will be YouTuber in this case. We're going to rename the server to Web 1 Hour Server, so it makes sense. Here you can see the total is only €4.50, which is not much at all considering that we have our server now up. And here we see everything, and we have our public IP. We need to copy this and share this to the domain name on the domain manager so that it knows where to point the address to. So we basically telling it, go to this IP address, go from our website name to this IP, to our server. Once that's done, you can SSH into your machine and SSH YouTuber at the address. and you pass the key as well. And basically what we're doing here is we're accessing our server through the command line, and you can do this on Windows as well. So now you can see our name has changed to YouTuber, and we're going to create some firewall exceptions. So basically allow traffic to enter this machine. Right now it's blocking almost everything. So we're going to allow port 80 and port 443. So they're basically the ports that the internet uses, like HTTPS needs these ports to be able to access our server and route traffic. And we're also going to create a firewall on Hetzner and allow these ports there as well, because they also block it. So our server blocks it internally, but also the Hetzner hosting blocks these, so we're going to allow those. Outbound rules, you don't need to create these, but just select any for now and apply this to our server. Select the server, you see our server listed, web 1 hour server, select that, and now we basically generate a firewall. Done. Now that we have a place to put our website up, let's actually get on to building our website. So I'm going to use something called Ghost CMS. You can think of it like WordPress, but without all of the extra fluff. And there's a few different platforms that do this for you. So if you're not happy with Ghost, you can choose another, but let's just go with this for the simplest and quickest way to get set up. Now we're going to put everything together with a thing called Docker. Now this is where things get a little bit technical, so please just keep following along and we'll get through this. The reason I went with Docker is because it means you can move things in and out quite easily and change them because they're all containerized. So if you're not happy with Ghost, you can swap it out with another service. If you're not happy with the database that we're using, you can also swap that out. So that's the reason we're doing this, and it will pay off in the long run. It's worth a little bit of extra effort. So here we have our Docker compose file. This is basically where we enter all our services. We have our Nginx, which is our proxy, MySQL, which will be our database, and we also have the Ghost environment, the Ghost CMS, which is basically going to be our website. If you don't know what any of that means, don't worry. Basically, you can just copy paste this as well, but this will basically be the backend, all of the code that's running our server. And we have created this file. We're opening it in our editor, but you can open this in any editor, copy paste it in. I'm going to show you how to do that in a moment. This is our .env file, so this is basically all of the passwords and everything. We keep those separate in a special file, and we pass them into our server through these keywords, basically, these variables. So MySQL user, MySQL password, and so on. Here we have our Nginx configuration. This is what tells Nginx, our proxy, which basically routes the traffic for us, so you can allow traffic to go to certain places on our server, and we're basically telling it don't allow anyone in to our server, to the admin of our server except for us. So we have all these locations that we allow our user to visit, and one is just a default route. The other is for the ghost URL, which is when they type in ghost. And Ghost in our case is an admin page, and I will show you it once we have our website set up, but we only want to allow our IP address to access it. So if you need to know what your IP address is, just go to whatismyipaddress.com, and it will basically tell you what your IP address is. So copy paste your IP4 address in this case, and then use that to enter here in the allow. But make sure not to block everyone, just block this particular route. And if you're confused by all this, all you need to do is do the copy paste section into the allow, and everything else you can just copy over directly from how I'm showing you. You don't even need to use VS Code editor, which is what I'm using. What you type is make directory my website. That's where we're going to keep our thing on our server. CD to my website, that brings us into that directory. And then use a thing called nano, which is pre-installed to set up all over the files. So you give it a name docker/compose.yaml, and then just copy paste in all of this. The only thing you have to change is the IP address of the ghost route. So we paste in our docker compose YAML, and then we also do the same for the Nginx, where the IP address needs to be changed. But you can type that in here as well. Save it. And then you want to do the same thing for the .env. And make sure you change the passwords in here. You don't want to copy paste these directly, but change the password to some password that you want. And now you can see all the files are here on this. And if you find any of this confusing, just drop me a message or drop a message in the comments and we will help you out. Okay, there's no need to get stuck here. This is not too complicated. One last thing before we go live, we have to set up our SSL security certificates. And these are basically what verify to say that yes, this domain is the one it says it is. It's going to where it should be going. And it's a security feature that's very important for anything that you try to do on the internet. It's super simple. We'll have it done in a couple of steps. So the first thing we need to do is install this thing called certbot. It makes the process really easy. Just follow these commands: sudo apt-get install certbot. We had a little typo there. Press enter, installs it. Great. Now what we can do is type this command. Just I will again post this in the notes: sudo certbot cert only -d and the name of your website. Requests a certificate for the website, generates one for our server, and basically confirms that we are who we say we are, that this is the IP for this domain. The certificate generates it. Bam, you're done. Now the certificate lives at this address, and what you will need to do is sudo cp, which is to copy it from that address. So etc let's encrypt live, the name of your website, and then fullchain.pm, and then copy it to ./mywebsite/nginx_certs. Basically, we're going to put all the certs into a place where our nginx container can read them, and it makes everything easy. So just copy all of them, as I'm doing here, into this other folder. The next thing we're going to do is install some dependencies. So these are basically programs that we need to set up Docker. So Docker doesn't come pre-installed on this server. We have to set it up. So we install apt transport, HTTPS, CA certificates, curl, software properties, common, and so on. Basically, we'll use these to try grab the latest version of Docker. Don't worry too much about these commands. You can basically just copy paste them in and you should be fine. And this basically installs them from the internet. They're all great tools. So the next thing that we need now is to actually trust the key of Docker, because Ubuntu uses a very old version of Docker and we want to use a more modern version. So there it gives you the key. And now we will do this sudo add apt repository deb arch equals amd64, then the address, and lsb release basically tells it should use the version of our Ubuntu, grab the most relevant version and the stable version of that. So it basically grabs it from the Docker website and downloads it, and that's what we need. We want the latest version of Docker for our relevant package, our relevant version of Ubuntu, which is our Linux operating system. Then we sudo apt update to make sure everything's up to date, and then following that we install Docker itself with these commands here. And you can see everything installing, blah blah blah. Very good. Again, copy paste this command in. Docker compose up, and everything is running. That's it. We're good to go. So now I will show you the actual website. So we'll go over to Firefox and we will see everything running. So we go to website in 1 hour, in 1hour.1, and you can see we're using HTTPS. So we have this as SSL's security certificate. And we go to /ghost, where we have this dashboard, and this is the admin page, and only you should be able to access this. You can test it by going to someone else's house and checking the Wi-Fi or using a VPN, and you shouldn't be able to actually access this. Only you should at your IP address. If it doesn't work, try enter a new IP address and restart Docker. But for now it's working, and we can see here all of the administration. So we can do lots of things here. We have this administration page where we can change the styling and different colors, and I've done this already, so I don't need to do it again, but I'm just showing you guys all of the options on Ghost. It's a blog type preset, but you can honestly put anything you want in here, and you can add members, and there's all these steps that it suggests you to follow to set up your site. Again, you don't have to use Ghost. You can use any sort of headless CMS. If you want an e-commerce site, you can also do that. Here you can see I can publish my little writings. I can have a members list with all the people who sign up to my newsletter. And then I can see my profile, and other than that I can also see all of these things that I can change. So I can add all these integrations if I want to do advanced things on my website. Then there's also membership, and I can connect it to Stripe so people can pay me for whatever I'm offering. And yeah, there's just endless amount of things you can do here, and if you want to get more advanced with it you can, but again, this is a nice quick way to get things started. And just like that, we're live and we have our fully functional running website. And now from here you can change it and do whatever you want. Our main point is just getting it up in an hour, and we've done that. If you followed along and you've created something, please share it. I'd like to actually see what people build. And if you keep following me here, I will be posting lots of indie hacker stuff and lots of small projects that I'll be working on in the near future. So subscribe, and see you guys later. Bye.